Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof.
Evening, Prof. Everybody has to wake up their computers. Okay, so how's everyone today? Okay.
Yes.
All right, we've only got 15 online, so I'm sure people will start coming in. So we're now, alhamdulillah, we're already into week 9 already of the semester, so time is flying. And so tonight we will be looking at the topic of religion and spirituality and youth. Okay, so it's kind of an interesting topic because we're going to look at the topic of religion and spirituality a little bit different than what we're used to, the way we're used to looking at it. Okay, and that is as an institution that helps young people to develop. All right, so it's a little bit different than the way we typically hear and think about religion and spirituality. Okay, so but it is one of the most important institutions in society, especially in Asian societies like Malaysia that are tend to be quite religious. So it's a very interesting way of looking at it, and I think once we hear from our presenters and we go through the article, we'll have a better appreciation for why it's so important for young people. Okay, so before we start, let me just want to draw your attention to something on Puja Blast. That's not Puja Blast. Hold on. All right. Okay, so today I just want to first just point you to something. I've changed the format a little bit. The attendance link is now, there's only one link now on Puja Blast for attendance. So it's a static link. So it's there all the time. So if you go all the way to the top of the course, you'll see that it's right here at the top. And so now every week you can just click on the same link. You don't have, I don't have to put the link in every week. In fact, I was doing it wrong last time apparently, and it wasn't recording the way it was supposed to be. So I think I fixed it now. So just be sure, don't forget to click on the link and then sign in, all right? Every week. Sorry, kick me out. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so there it is. So just click on it. Okay, so just to remind you all to do that. And then we are here in week 9.
Okay. Prof?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think the attendance cannot be clicked on.
You tried to do it tonight already?
Yeah, I tried it just now, but
Okay.
cannot click. There's no button.
What happens when you click on it? Oh, you don't see the button.
Yeah, there's. I don't know. Is it just me or anyone else encounter the same problem?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. Do you guys, are you also having that problem?
Yes.
So you don't even see the attendance.
See the button.
You don't see the link.
Yeah, we can see the link, but cannot click.
What happens when you click on it? It should be all the way at the top. And so if you click on it, there should be an option here for. I don't know what let me see what your screen looks like. Hold on, I can change the setting here to student mode. And I can see what you guys see. All right, so this is like what you guys see. So if I go to the top of the course page, oh, okay, Huda, thank you for letting me know that. All right, so I see the link here. I don't know if you guys see it or not. It's right at the top of the page, right after welcome to DCE5331. And then the first link is attendance. So today is, yeah, so once you click the link, it should automatically take the attendance for you. Even though it says, please sign in, don't worry about that. Okay?
I see it.
Yeah, just click the link. I think that's all you have to do. And I can check it to be sure. Hold on. If I go back to my screen here.
My status on show question mark, Prof.
Your status.
Yeah, status for present or not in the class. Status for the attendance. It shows only the question mark.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, hold on. Oh, like this, huh? Huh.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, hold on. Let me check the setting here. Sorry. Oh, why is this? Oh, okay, it's not. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Okay, should be okay now. Can you go back and try it again? Click on it again.
Yeah, can, Prof. Already
Now,
can.
Ken.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
Prof.
sorry,
Now already can.
it was, the setting was wrong. That's my fault. I apologize. Okay, so it should be okay now.
Okay, Prof.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
for those that just came online, the attendance link is now at the top of the course page on FutureBlast. So every week it's the same link there. Just click on that link. Okay. Alrighty, so that's settled. The first thing I want to do is I just wanted to go briefly look at what we did last week with your the in-class work that we did on the youth center programming. Just to sort of briefly go over the there is some of the responses that you gave. So I'm just going to use this one, group 4, as the example. I don't know if you remember the activity last week. I asked you to re-look at the video of the headmaster who was doing the environmental programs, and then I asked you some questions about how he might make those programs more youth-centered, what he was trying to do, according to the principles that we learned last week on youth-centered programming. Okay. So the first thing I asked you actually was on the youth development needs of the students, right? And so there are some very good answers, interesting answers. Okay, youth development needs, one of the ways we can think about youth development needs would be, for example, the 6 C's model of PYD. Okay, so looking at the 6 C's of competence, confidence, caring, connection, character, contribution. Okay, so of those C's, of those 6 C's, which are those most related to young people's, the young people in the class or in the school, their needs? So through his program, is he trying to develop competence? Is he trying to develop the students' confidence, their sense of caring, their connection to others, character, or is it contribution? And it may be several, right? So when it comes to environmental education, definitely there's an aspect of competence, right? Understanding how the environment works, understanding our role in how our behavior affects the environment, right? So there's definitely there's something around knowledge, and then how to undertake activities that can benefit the environment, right? So these are some of the ways that the developmental needs of the students can be met, right? Building their confidence that they can actually take action and have an effect, right? A positive impact on the environment, right? So there's ways to build students' confidence as well, right? their sense of caring, caring for the environment, caring about plants and animals and our water, our air, right? So it builds up that sense of caring as well. And then doing those programs, those activities together can build up students' sense of connection to others. Okay. And then it's also related to character development, right? Trustworthiness, integrity, and all that. And then of course the sense of contribution that that students can make once they're involved in those kind of environmental programs. So there's a lot in terms of developmental needs. There's a lot that those types of programs, what he's trying to do, can impact the students. Okay. So, and I saw many of your answers are some, of course, related to these kinds of outcomes, or these kinds of needs rather. Okay, so and then outcomes to achieve. Okay, so outcomes is, when we talk about outcomes, we're talking more in terms of the long-term changes that we want to see that go beyond the program, right? So the program itself is going to have objectives, but from meeting those program objectives, what are the longer-term outcomes that we want to see from this type of a program, right? And so, like here, for example, Group 4 said, helping to protect the environment, reducing plastic usage. Okay, so that would be a good one. Inculcating the spirit to love and protect the environment, right? That, again, sense of caring, like we just talked about. But anytime you talk about outcomes or program objectives, you want to think about, well, later, how can this be measured, right? So the spirit of love to protect the environment, is that something that we can measure? So for example, if we wanted to measure 1 year after the students leave the school, whether they still have that sense of love and protection about the environment, how can we measure that? Is it possible to measure that? What do you guys think?
In terms of emotion, it's quite difficult for us to measure, but maybe we can measure in terms of their behavior. So from behavior, maybe it related to their emotion that they already have. Maybe.
Okay, so their behavior in relation to protecting the environment.
That should be measured.
Okay, so yeah, so I would agree with you, Mahfouz. I think something like their sense of, that sort of sense of love or desire to protect the environment, that is difficult to measure. Okay, it is difficult, but yeah, but of course we could measure their, for example, their the amount or the extent to which they practice recycling, for example, or how often do they engage in environmental sort of community projects and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely we can measure their behavior, absolutely. All right, and so that would be one way. And so those are the kind of, when we talk about either outcomes or program objectives, either one, we want to think about how can we really determine whether they're actually doing it, and can it be measured, So reducing plastic usage, definitely that can be measured. That's more or less a behavior, like you mentioned just now, Mahfouz. And so that's good. And so that would also help us to understand whether the program is effective, right? By looking at those longer term outcomes. Okay, so it's one thing to have change in behavior at the end of the program, but whether that change is lasting in the life of the young person, the youth, that's really the big question. Yeah, so outcomes tend to look at those longer term results from the program. Okay, and then the third one, how can we involve youth in the planning, or how can he, the headmaster, involve the youth in the planning and implementation of the projects? Okay, so there's many ways. There's some good ones here, and I asked you to be creative. Okay, so inviting former student leaders to or participants from his previous school to become mentor. Yeah, so mentors for the students, right? And they can work with the students on doing these projects. And then also inviting parents, the students to join in the activities. Okay, so those are both good suggestions, right? And so here the idea is inviting the young people to take the lead, to take responsibility on, if not the whole project, at least on certain aspects of the project, right? And that will allow them to work more in partnership with the adults, whether they're teachers, alumni, parents, doesn't matter. But again, getting that sense of building that sense of community, and getting the young people involved as leaders in the process, right? So not just telling them, go recycle, or go clean this this part of the park or something, go pick up trash. It's about them being involved in the actual planning and implementation. Okay, so many ways that the principal can do this, right? He can set up a school committee comprised of both students and teachers, for example, and they can plan together on what they should do and stuff like that. So there's many ways. And in fact, a lot of schools, maybe less so in Malaysia, but in other countries, a lot of schools, they do have these types of committees where students and teachers work together to implement school projects. Okay. What kind of program objectives? I asked also. All right. So going back to our model on student-centered programming, youth-centered programming. So as long as the objectives meet that criteria of the sort of SMART criteria, which are realistic, measurable, achievable, etc. Okay. So program objectives here says behaviors to develop kind of program objective, because the main concern of the program is, okay, I'm not sure what that means. Current practice kind of objectives, since it's set program strategies and plans. Okay. So any program objectives that meet those qualifications of realistic, measurable, achievable, tangible, and so forth. Okay. So again, are they measurable? Are they realistic? Right. And do they represent something that can be measured? So we can really know, we can really determine whether the program was a success. Okay. And then lastly, how can he evaluate the program? Okay. So as we mentioned, there's two main types of evaluation: formative and summative. Okay, so you captured group 4, you captured that one very nicely. So yeah, so the formative ongoing evaluation, he can look at the program content, okay, all these aspects of the equipment being used, the site that they're working at, food, source of funding, etc. All right. This can be gathered through observation. Okay, so ongoing observation, and maybe he has to have a certain staff member or even the students. He can train the students to be involved in the evaluation. That's a very effective approach. Okay, so students as researchers. Okay, and that's another way to involve them in the process of the program, is to invite the students to become sort of evaluators, right? So they can learn how to do evaluation, and they can be have a real meaningful responsibility in the program. All right, and then there's of course the summative evaluation, looking at the outcomes to determine whether the program met its objectives. All right, and yes, this could be done via pre-test, post-test, and evaluation form. Okay, so good, you did a good job of capturing most of these. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of them, we don't have time, but just to highlight some of the responses here on that youth-centered programming. Okay, so youth-centered programming can be implemented in various ways. There's many ways to do it, and in a variety of different programs. Okay, so it's a very useful model that people should use. And youth-centered is not only for youth, actually. Anybody that's involved in like extension education, you'll know that one of the principles of doing good program planning in any type of program is to involve the participants. All right. So whoever your target group is for your training, for example, involve them from the beginning in the planning and so forth. Okay, to increase that sense of buy-in, right? Increase their interest, and they will also benefit more from the training if they're involved. Okay, so don't think of doing training for people. Think of doing training with people, right? And that's the difference. Okay, so these are all participatory methods, and you'll learn about this in your HRD courses. If you haven't yet, you'll learn all about this. All right. So, but we can't neglect. It is important to do it with youth as well, and we shouldn't neglect that. And that's the whole purpose of doing youth-centered programming. Okay. Are there any questions or comments about any of this? Nothing. Okay, so if there's nothing, then I will stop my sharing. Okay, now So who are our presenters this week for the topic of religion and spirituality?
Yes, Prof. Michael speaking. Yeah.
Michael, okay. Do you have a
Yeah.
partner this week, or is it just you?
Yeah, I absolutely have my partners and the Shirley and Nicole. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, I will turn the floor over to you so you can go ahead and share your screen and get going.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and wait a second. Okay, all right. So is it clear?
Yes.
Great. Yep, we can see it.
Okay, very good. So shall we start?
Sure.
Okay,
Just
very good.
just a
So
reminder, as always,
um,
I will be interrupting you throughout. So just a fair warning.
it's okay. Yeah. It's just kind of nervous about that. Yeah.
Oh, don't be
Okay,
nervous.
so tonight we have so tonight we have the topic nine, and is about the religion and identity, and in terms of the role of the ideological and social and the spiritual context. And my name's Joe Hongxiang, and you guys can just call me Michael, and my teammate Shirley and Wang Xiaotong and Calm. So I'll cover the first part, an introduction about this topic. So next slide. Okay. So in today's presentation, we actually have three parts. The first part is the introduction, and the second part is the conceptual framework, and the third part is about the final part, including the conclusions. Okay. So here we go. So today's topic, we're gonna cover the religion and identity in terms of the role of ideological and social and spirituality contest, and also we have to present the conceptual framework based on our articles and introduce the recommendations for empirical studies. Okay. Um, so the next, yeah, this is about the concept of the religions. Yeah, actually, it's very complicated. I have researched and served on the internet too many articles, and then I make a very broad conclusion. So the first one is I want to share with you is the religion can be, literally the religion can be a central part of one's identity. And the word religion actually comes from Latin word that means to tie or bind together, like stick, everybody stick together. And the second one I find is that the modern dictionaries define the religions as the organized system of beliefs and the ritual centering on supernatural being or beings. So, and then I find this one, the most intensive and comprehensive method of valuing that is experienced by the humankind. Yeah, it's about the chapter three, philosophy of the religions. So, it's kind of complicated to clarify the concept of religion. So, and then is about the identity development. So I believe everyone knows the concept about the identity. So I just want to give you share some information about identity development. So it's actually a complex process by which people come to develop a sense and understanding of themselves within the context of culture, demands, and social norms. And then identity change in the teenagers' bodies due to the puberty shifts in sociocultural context due to maybe the war or the civil rights movement, and then they're gonna change. Maybe they will be affected hardly due to the parenthood or divorce or some family events, and the change is absolutely will affected by the aging supportive lifespan view of the identity formation, and additionally yes, the religion, the race, ethnicity, and gender, class, and sexual orientation. So so in today's topic, we're gonna um, talk about this question in terms of the religions, how the religions is gonna affect the identity development in terms of the adolescence. Okay, so it's about the link between the religion and identity. So based on the article, we can see that the few social scientists now have explored the domains of religion and spirituality as the resource for identity development. And evidence from the existing suggests that the religion is more or less positive and positively correlated with the identity formation. So in the following, we're gonna explore how religion might promote the formation of identity during the adolescence. Specifically, a three-dimension framework is used to examine religion as a context for identity development by considering the ideological and social spirituality context of the religion. And the next part is will be presented by Shirley.
Okay, can I stop you there,
Okay, this
Michael?
okay.
Thank
all
you
right.
for that. Thank you for the introduction. So yeah, so I think what you concluded with there is a good conclusion for the introduction, in the sense that actually few in the social sciences, there's been actually quite a bit of study from a social science perspective on religion and spirituality, but less so on
Yeah.
the impact of it on how it affects young people's development, and especially their identity development. Okay. And so King here, she's providing us with a sort of framework for understanding the three main ways that religion and spirituality can actually impact a young person's development of their identity.
Yeah.
Okay? And remember, early on in the semester, we talked about a little bit about the identity development and the different institutions in society and how they affect how a young person comes to understand who they are and their place in society and so forth. So not so much work has been done on this particular topic. So she provides us with three main ways: ideological, which we're going to hear about in a minute, social, and spiritual. All right, and how each of these sort of has the potential to shape a young person's understanding about themselves and about their position in society, and help them to answer some of the bigger questions that young people tend to ask. Okay, and all those things. So it's an interesting approach to looking at this issue and this topic. Okay, so next, Shirley, take it away.
Okay.
Guys, Shirley Wang Xiaotong, and I will continue the part 2 conceptual framework. It will be divided into three parts: religion as a social context, ideological context, and the spiritual context. The social environment is considered as a potential resource for social influence and is crucial to the formation for identity. The spiritual environment refers to the opportunity to experience a deep connection with the supernatural or human other, and the other invokes a self-conscious relation with the other. And what is ideological context? Okay, let's move on. Ideology is essential to the identity formation. Young people struggle to understand the world and to maintain their place in it. And religion deliberately provided beliefs, moral codes, and values from which young people can build their own belief systems. This worldview forms the cornerstone of a young person's sense of person's uniqueness and is an important aspect of his or her identity. Religion and spirituality provide meaningful opportunities for young people to exercise their new intellectual powers to reason critical and skeptical about previously held beliefs. Religion also can provide opportunities for youth to use their analytical capacities to think through and question beliefs and values, which may be especially helpful in the consolidation of identity. In addition to provide an ideological rich context. Okay, next slide, please. Religion offers a social
Okay, sorry.
context.
Sorry, I didn't know you were going on. I didn't know you were going on to social context. Can I just, let's just comment on this a little bit. So one of the things that King, her first part of her framework is the ideological aspect. And what she means here by ideological is that religion provides, for those, of course, for young people who are involved in religious traditions, that can provide an important sense of meaning, order, and place in the world. Okay, so as it says there. And this is very important because, as we know, especially in youth, especially in early youth, like adolescence, this is the age where young people are searching for, they're beginning this really beginning this ideological identity search, trying to figure out who they are, trying to understand the world and their place in the world. Okay, so that ability to provide young people with a sense of meaning very early on, a sense of order, answers to some of these big questions. This can be a very important asset for young people who have this. As we see, if you look now, I mean, you see this everywhere really, is this idea that young people are often, they're burdened by this sense of meaningless. They don't have a strong sense of meaning, a strong sense of purpose, right? So research has shown that young people who are more involved and have a strong involvement in religious traditions have a stronger sense of meaning. They have a clearer purpose often, and that's what being involved in religion provides them. Also, a stronger sense of a moral code, like morality, clear moral guidelines, moral and ethical values and stuff like that. So this is the ideological component of what religion provides young people. Okay, and of course not in all situations or all contexts. It depends on many things. And she, at the end of this article, she talks about what happens when religion can also have negative aspects if it's implemented in extreme ways, for example, and stuff like that. So it's not always going to be a positive influence, but in many cases, research has shown that it is. Okay, so it's also true that in many cases of religious conversion, for example, it's often in the youth period, like especially in the late teens and early 20s, when a lot young people tend to switch religions. They tend to convert at this stage in life, and that often has a lot to do with, again, that identity formation, that search for an identity, and finding it in certain religious traditions, right? That provide them with that sense of self, that sense of uniqueness, that sense of meaning. Okay, it's quite common actually. All right. So this ideological component is a very important aspect of identity formation. Having clear beliefs, having a strong worldview, and all these things. Okay. Any questions, comments from anyone so far? No. Okay. So Shirley, can continue.
Okay. The religion offers a social context helpful for identity development. Not only does religion provide a transcendent worldview, but also exemplifying these principles and behavior norms in actual historical events and in the lives of fellow believers. Erickson said that it is the embodiment of these ideological-based principles and behavior norms that enables religion to be so effective in the development of identity. During adolescence, person's integration is facilitated not only by abstract ideology, but by having it lived out in the flesh. Religions also often provide opportunities for adolescents to interact with peers and build intergenerational relationship as well. Research, okay, next slide, please. Research demonstrates that parents recognized as spiritual role model influence outcomes such as adolescent religion needs. So the parents may have a direct and indirect influence on their children, particularly in the year to adolescence. Parental religiosity and spirituality may have a more powerful impact on children's well-being than does the child's own self-reported religiosity. Some of the mechanisms of influence are the same as those described above, including increased social capital and social support and promotion of health behavior. And parents' religiosity may affect children's well-being through both direct and indirect influence. This influence on parenting behavior. Parental religiosity may influence their family, work, and community behaviors in ways, for example, by affecting their propensity to divorce. Finally, parents' religiosity may influence the behaviors and the beliefs that they model for their children. Next slide.
Okay. Are you still on social context? Okay.
No, still on the social context.
Okay.
Okay, for the direct effects, first, religion imbues child rearing with divine and moral significance, consistent with their views on the nature of child, and which can become a resource for coping with the emotions abused by child rearing stresses. And second, religious and religious institutions offer opportunities for parents and children to participate in activities together. And the third, this participation in the activities of religious communities afford opportunities for involvement with other families, with children of same age who can offer advice and encouragement, thus providing a support network for parents. In addition to these direct effects, and parents' religiosity may have indirect effects on parenting. Okay, next slide, please. The indirect effects by impacting marital relationships and the parents' mental health in ways that promote or undermine positive parenting and consequently child well-being. First, individuals who reported membership in a religious denomination were less likely to divorce than were any these individuals, although this link tended to disappear in studies. And second, church attendance were linked to lower divorce rates. Mahoney and his colleagues put the strength of this effect of religion on divorce in concrete terms, estimate that about 44% of frequent churchgoers have a history of divorce. And couples who had similar religious value and who had similar patterns of church attendance were found to be less likely to divorce than were less homogeneous couples.
Okay, let me stop you there, Shirley. So in terms of the social context here, King is telling us or explaining to us how religion contributes to young people's identity from a social perspective. Okay, so it offers a variety of social assets. Okay, first, it was mentioned on relationships. Okay, so a community of support, for example, right? Relationships with peers, with older adults. Okay, a sort of network of relationships that you find in religious communities. Okay, so religious community plays a very important role in the as a social asset. Okay, and often those relationships are intergenerational. So young people interact with adults, for example. right? So through religious programs, through religious education, through spending time at religious places of worship, right? They have these intergenerational relationships, right? So that's one of the ways. And then she also talks about something called spiritual modeling, right? So religion provides young people with spiritual models or models of adults that practice the values of the religion, whether they're living or even no longer living. So, for example, in Islam, we have the stories of the prophets, right? We have the stories of the great scholars that have come before us and so forth. So all those are what they call in social sciences spiritual models, right? And so it's these models that provide examples for young people on how to live and how to practice and so forth. All right, so emulating their ethical positions and their actions. Right. And then, of course, there's the web of support that religious congregations provide. Okay. So, and opportunities for social interaction, um, characterized by different types of relationships. Okay. So, there's a lot of support that goes on. Religious communities provide a tremendous amount of social capital for their members, right? So they can help one another in charity and all these things. So a lot of these things that we practice every day, for example, in Malaysia, we practice a lot of these things every day, right? Whether it's through our local churches or masjid or whatever, whether it's through NGOs, these are actually tremendous assets. And especially for young people that are involved in these kinds of things, it helps them in their formation of identity, right? Um, Okay, so Shirley, I'm not exactly sure how your discussion here of this meta-analysis on religion and divorce, how does that relate to the article or the topic?
I searched some article about the religion and the youth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the researcher is Mahoney and his colleague.
Right. But is
From
this
this,
about youth or is this about adults and divorce? I didn't see the youth part of it.
yeah, this is about the youth.
It's about youth.
Yeah.
So this is about marriage and divorce among youth.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Okay. So would you like to continue?
Okay. In addition to relationship, the religious social context also provided social experiences. Religious congregation often create such opportunities. For example, interviews with a woman recognized for commitment to serving the poor revealed that her strong sense of moral identity was shaped within her religious context.
Right.
And many congregations offer service opportunities through local ministry to the homeless or hungry, and cross-cultural experiences will use build homes or lead religious camps for young people.
Hmm.
And adolescents can take on leadership within the youth ministry, act as small group leaders for peers or for younger aged children, lead in congregational worship, and sometimes participate in the governing body of the congregation. And this is down of the social context. And then the last part, spiritual context.
Okay, sorry, let me stop you again. So for example, here she's talking about the role of, like, for example, rituals, ritual practices and of course, she's speaking mostly from the Judeo-Christian tradition or background because she's writing from the US perspective. But she does, in the article, she mentions, for example, she mentions several um, uh, ritual traditions from like Judaism and Christianity. But then she also mentions about Islam, for example, and even, for example, our prayer, our salat, 5 times per day. How would something like, and this is a question for, because we have many Muslim students in the class, how might the practice of daily prayer impact a young person's identity and development within the Muslim community, or any religious community that, that, for example, has a daily practice like prayer, or maybe meditation if you're a Buddhist, or any of those ritual acts. How can they help a young person develop their sense of identity? Who'd like to guess? Sorry?
The discipline.
The discipline, okay. And how does that relate to their identity? Development of their identity. Amira?
I believe, Prof, when it comes to religion, it comes with the spiritual aspect that govern the behavior and attitude of the youth,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay. So it helps to govern their behavior. Okay. All right. And so how does that reinforce or enforce a certain identity?
By praying, they believe that good deeds will be repaid by good by pahala, and then the bad deeds will repay as there is a consequence if they are doing bad or good things.
Okay. So in terms of their sense of identity? Yeah, you're the
Doctor, can I answer?
Yeah, of course, please. Go ahead.
I think because they believe in religion, they practice it, and somehow it becomes a part of their identities, and that's why it somehow, what is it called, affects. And it's not affects. It's somehow a part of them. It
Okay.
constructs their identities in a way.
Okay, so it reinforces their identity as
Yeah.
a believer in that religious tradition.
Yep.
Okay, all right, yep, sure, definitely. All right. And also, I think it also, in relation to that, their place within the community. So for example, like, one thing, like, just speaking personally, I grew up a Christian, and then I converted to Islam, and of course there are similarities between the two religions, but there's many differences as well. And one of the things that I found is that something like praying on a regular basis in Islam, it's 5 times a day. It is a very strong reinforcement, especially in terms of, we see this in the older communities, for example, the older faith communities, because they're often retired and they have more spare time. So they spend more time with the community, at the mosque or even at the church or temple or whatever. And that is a somebody that has to mute their screen, mute their computer. It's a very strong reinforcement of their role in the community, right? Their beliefs and their identity as a member of that faith community and so forth, right? So they are, from a social perspective, we haven't gotten to the spiritual perspective yet. We're still in the social perspective. On the social perspective, there's a very strong reinforcement mechanism that something like rituals provide. And this is often very evident during festive seasons as well, right? There's this, regardless of whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever, during the festive season, there's this much stronger sense of identity, and it's related to the family, it's related to the community, right? And so it gives young people that sense of meaning, that sense of order, that sense of place, right? They have a specific role within that larger community. And I think maybe maybe Asians, but Malaysians, especially since many people from this part of the world are sort of born into these traditions, and so this is sort of like you're used to this kind of thing. But if you look at a lot of like youth in the West who don't grow up with any kind of tradition or religious tradition, it's a very different reality. especially in terms of identity, they don't have that support to help them to answer these kinds of questions, to help them to give them that sense of order, that sense of structure. They don't have it. And so often they have to try to find it or create it through other means, all right? And so that's what she's really talking about here, is that it's an asset in that regard, okay? For example, having that sense of solidarity with other members of your community is an identity process, actually, because it gives you that sense of who you are, right, and your value within a community, all right? So it's actually quite powerful. Okay, Shirley, can you continue, please?
Okay. Next slide, please. Religion provided a spiritual environment in which young people can explore issues related to identity development. As further described, spirituality as that which is concerned with transcendent, addressing ultimate questions about life's meaning, with the assumption that there is more to life than what we can see or fully understand. And the spirituality includes the connection between self and other. He described the spirituality as the awareness of the fundamental unity of our being and of our connectedness to one another and the universe.
Okay, so that's really important. And people often ask this question, and my PhD work was on Muslim religiosity, so I dealt with this topic quite a bit in my PhD. People often ask that, what is the difference between religion and spirituality? And there's actually quite a big difference. And I think this is sort of a good way of explaining. But the notion, or the common notion of spirituality, is something that a sense of connection that goes beyond the self. Okay, so that's why spirituality is, of course, if you are affiliated with a religion, of course you practice your spirituality through your religious tradition. So, for example, myself as a Muslim, my sense of spirituality, my practice of spirituality is through my religious traditions and through my religious rituals, okay, and my knowledge of my religion. But spirituality is a more of a general notion here that, as you can see, concerned with that which is beyond the self, beyond the individual, and a sense of connection to something bigger. All right, often dealing with the transcendent, or that which is not necessarily physical. Okay, and that's why it's called spirituality. All right. And so this is one of the great benefits of religion. So, for example, if you take the first two aspects of her model, the first one being ideological, the second one being social, right? And you could say, well, a lot of our institutions in society give us, or give youth, an ideological identity, right? It could be your ethnic group, for example, your race, for example, right? And then the social context, well, a lot of social institutions give youth a sense of identity, right? You know, they can be a member of a football team, right? That gives them a sense of identity. And that's true, it does. Or even your relationship to your family, you know, that gives you a sense of identity as well in the social context. But very few give this third one, which is the spiritual dimension of it, or the spiritual context. So when you combine all three, that's the uniqueness of religion, is that it provides all three. Okay, and so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, Shirley, you want to continue?
Okay. Religion. Next slide, please. Religions can offer a profound sense of connection that has great implications for self-concept. For example, with Judeo-Christian traditions, believers experience themselves as being in a special relationship with God. Within the Christian tradition, believers are to understand themselves as son or daughter of God. And the New Testament also refers to believers being chosen by God. Both traditions recognize the uniqueness and intrinsic worth of each individual. Being understood by the creator as one's lover or chooser can have a profound implications for identity. Okay,
Yep.
next slide.
Yep.
Doctor, you want to
Yeah. So
say?
again, it's that sense of uniqueness, and it's often the religious traditions provide young people with answers to those big questions. Okay, a lot of those big questions, the meaning of life, what is my purpose, all those big questions that a lot of young people ask, but they never get really good answers to. So those answers often come by way of religious traditions. All right, so they play a very important role in that sense as well. Okay. Okay, Shirley, continue.
Okay, let's move on. One way religion promotes a sense of belongingness is through religious ritual, because the highest aim in Judaism is to fulfill the covenant of God, through which spirituality is manifested in community. Significant life transitions are commemorated in the life of the religious community. These religious rites of passage are unique events that intentionally celebrate and affirm a young person's sense of identity as a believer, as well as recognize their place within their faith community. An ongoing worship ritual also confirm one's place in a community. One of the foremost religious practices within Islam is salat or prayer. According to this tradition, believers will pray at 5 specific times a day. In this repetitive act, believers experiences themselves in solidarity with other Muslims, projecting themselves toward to Makkah. Okay, I done my part. Okay, let's pass to Kong Yingsha.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, pro and fellow students. I'm Kong Yinsha. So in my part, I will introduce the part 3 of our presentation, namely spiritual anchored religion gone awry, the empirical study of religion and spirituality. Okay, let's nice. Religion potentially offers an ideologically, social, and spirituality-rich context for identity formation. Psychology currently lacks precise concepts to explain how religion and spirituality affect and contribute to the formation of your identity. This article attempts to explain the influence of religion on the potential growth experience of young people, which shows that religion plays an important role in society, which is provide young people with support that can promote values and recognition of identity and sense of belonging. Religious institutions may play a valuable role in society, providing youth with an environment of intergenerational support that can foster values, meaning, identity, and sense of belonging and connectedness beyond themselves. Congregation may provide a distinct context in which a young person can explore these issues that are critical for commitment to identity. Okay, next slide, please. So let's think about religious congregation different from other organizations that have shared values and purpose. Contemporary young people have many choices and ways to find a sense of belonging and affirm their unique self-consciousness. Young people can participate in family, sport activities, employment opportunities, public welfare, and various forms of citizens' participation. In addition, through technology, they can explore their own identity through real and virtual environments. Finally, the pursuit of art, academics, and other personal efforts also provide space for the development of your identity. So does religion or congregation play a unique role in this social fabric? Okay, next slide.
Sorry, can I stop you there?
Okay, sure.
What is meant by spiritual anchors here? Can you answer that question?
The meaning of spiritual anchors.
Mhm.
I think it is provide approach or some congregation to the youth to have their convey their ideas, and I think in the this is but I think it's very complicated to explain the word of this anchored
Okay.
mean.
What's an anchor?
Yes.
This is for the whole class. Not just you, Kong. This is for the whole class. What's an anchor?
Okay.
Do you guys know what an anchor is? Who knows what an anchor is?
Something to hold.
What kind of a vehicle uses an anchor?
Boat.
Yeah, the boat.
A boat. Yeah, a boat.
Ship,
Exactly, a boat.
or shape.
What is the anchor? What does the anchor do on the boat?
With a shape or broad, stable.
Yeah, it keeps it in place, right, from moving. So even if the boat is on the ocean and the ocean is really rough and there's big waves, the anchor keeps it in one place, right?
Yeah.
Keeps it stable. Okay. So here, when they talk about spiritual anchors, what do you think that means? If you use the anchor as the analogy.
To provide some information for you to frame ideologically.
Information that allows them to do what?
To let the view to frame ideologically, provide information to them.
To frame ideologically. So I didn't understand you. Yeah, it's provide information, perspective that does what? Who can help her? Anyone want to help, Kong?
What is the question, Doctor?
What's the question? What's a spiritual anchor? That's the question.
Is it like Iman?
Belief.
Okay.
Belief.
Okay. And what is its role? The role of a spiritual anchor, what does it do for a young person?
It's something to hold a person belief in whatever situation they're in.
Okay, yeah, I think you're getting closer, Mahfouz. So the spiritual anchor is what keeps a young person grounded, right? It gives them, like I sort of mentioned before, it gives them that answer, guideline, it gives them answers to those most fundamental and basic questions, and it gives them a sense of security, right? Like the root of a tree. Thank you, Hospital. Very good analogy. Exactly. It keeps them grounded, right? And this often is what helps them in times of turbulence, right? Times of stress, times of anxiety, like now, COVID-19. When we see in times like this, when young people don't have those strong spiritual anchors, they're more susceptible to these changes that are going on, right? They're more susceptible to having negative outlooks, losing hope, right? Not having a perspective, a bigger perspective of how this is affecting their life and how and the meaning of it. What's the meaning behind it? You know, all those kind of bigger questions. The spiritual anchor keeps them grounded, right? And research has shown this, not in any particular religious tradition, but in pretty much all religious traditions, that when young people have this stronger sense of a spirituality, they often fare better off. You know, they fare better when things get tough. So the spiritual anchor keeps them like the boat in the storm. It keeps them stable, keeps them grounded. All right, and that's a really important aspect of identity development. Like I mentioned before, young people that don't have that are often sort of floating around like a leaf in the wind. They just sort of go with whatever's, happening around them. And there's nothing really to ground them, nothing really to keep them sort of strong in the face of difficulties and challenges and so forth. Okay, especially when it comes to those big questions. And now, I mean, especially during this current pandemic we're in and so forth, people are starting to ask those big questions. Why is this happening to me? All those kind of things, right? And so this is the really important role that having a strong spirituality, sense of spirituality plays. Okay, the spiritual anchor. Okay, so in the article itself, let me just quote what it says. It says, as such, religious congregations serve as what Garbarino referred to as spiritual anchors, meaning institutions of the soul that connect children and teenagers to the deeper meanings of life and provide solid answers to the existential questions. Who am I? What is the meaning of life? Okay. So youth need these contexts in which to grapple with the spiritual issues of understanding their purpose in life, what they believe, and their place in the world. Okay. So a lot of young people are suffering because they don't have answers to these questions. They're searching for all kinds of things. They turn to all kinds of things like drugs and, addictions and all these things to seek relief, because they don't have these anchors, these things that really provide them with these core answers to these questions. Okay, so it's a very important part of youth development. Okay, sorry, I've said too much. Okay, can you continue, Colin?
Okay, sure.
Unless there's questions. Are there any questions? Sorry, any questions about anything we just discussed? No. Okay.
Okay, next slide, please.
Oh, now we have no slides.
Michael?
We went from next slide to no slide. Sorry, Michael, I didn't catch you.
Yeah, my connection is not it's unstable, I think.
Uh-oh. Connection problem.
Yeah, so I have to breathe out.
So having spiritual anchor can also help you deal with connection problems.
Yeah.
During COVID-19.
I hate that.
Oh, okay. We're back online. Let's see, what time is it? We're going to stop in a few minutes anyway, take our break. But are you okay? All right.
Yes, okay.
Okay, I see the slide.
Okay.
So can I continue or?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay. Religion may provide a intentional and coherent worldview that offers pro-social values and behavioral norms that are grounded in an ideology. In addition, the free community provides an intergenerational network of enduring, caring relationships through which youth may wrestle with issues pertinent to identity exploration, as well as offers experience in which they can explore personal gifts. Finally, congregation offers a spiritual environment that enables youth to transcend their daily concerns and encounter a spiritual, supernatural, and free community in a meaningful way. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay, so there's three aspects to it.
The slide still not changed, Michael.
Next slide, Michael.
Next slide, please.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. This. Oh yeah. Go right.
Excuse me, is this not change? Oh.
You there?
Yeah. Can you change the slide or
Oh, what do you mean? What?
the next slide?
Next slide. Next slide.
Next. I think I've already changed the slides, but can you guys say it?
No, no.
Oh, Sherry, can you help me out? Maybe there's something wrong with my connection.
Okay.
Yeah. So
maybe why don't we take
maybe
I think this is a good time to take our break. Maybe you guys can. How many more slides do you have for the whole presentation? Oh, just
20, 25, 25 or 24, 25. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you need to go back, Michael. You went ahead too far.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you're on 20.
The
21.
21.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take our break now, and then we'll finish up the last few slides after the break. Okay.
Okay.
And maybe.
Doctor, I have one question now.
Yes, please ask.
For the week 11, I didn't see the article there because we are a week 11 group in the prefer blast.
Okay.
Just to see the article for week 12.
You're in week 11. Oh, there's no article. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll make sure that the article's up.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Sorry. Okay. Thanks.
It's okay. Okay.
Not sure why that article's missing. Okay. Sorry. All right. So let's have our break now, and then we'll come back and finish up the lecture, and then we'll proceed. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
All right. See you guys in a few minutes.
See you, doctor.
Okay, welcome back. Everybody there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, doctor.
So
yes, doctor.
You worked out the bugs in the your connection's okay now, Michael?
Yeah.
I am controlling the
Maybe, I don't know.
screen now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bugs in control. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yingxia, you can go ahead.
So, okay, sure. Although other organizations and events provide young people with extensive opportunities to explore their identities, they rarely provide broader resources for development, because organizations rarely provide ideological cohesion purposefully. Congregation provide an environment where youth can experience the self embedded within a larger context that concurrently validates the inherent value of self as well as promotes a sense of belonging and connectedness beyond the self. So the young person can gain a sense of self as a unique individual, as well as a self that is a contributing member to a larger whole. Not only do congregations create an environment where young people can explore issues of identity development, but religious groups act as a medium to promote the maintenance of democratic social responsibility. In addition, religious belief is an individual moral excellence and their commitment to care and benefit their self in a larger environment. Religious groups embody the social worldview, which values the sanctity of individual and community life. They provide experience that enable young people to integrate themselves with others. Okay.
Okay, so that's all the pro-social elements to being involved in religious groups, religious congregations, religious organizations. They do all that sort of pro-social work that often helps young people feel that sense of connectedness to things larger than themselves, okay, outside themselves. Okay. And also a pro-social worldview and values, okay, which is really important. Okay, all right, next.
Okay. Free communities are also potentially hindering in the process of pursuing identity development. Young people seek a sense of transcendence, the sense of belonging, and in the process of pursuing identity development, young people seek a sense of transcendence. The sense of belonging and self-development is greater the connection with external things, and they strive to seek their own uniqueness and inherent personal value. The self and other both play a significant role in identity cohesion. Religion at its best offers both what occurs when religion is not at offers both what occurs when religion is not at its best. What if the self is sacrificed for the sake of others? What if the other is negated for the sake of the self? So, Marston Adams found that religious attendance was associated with identity, commitment, status of achievement. Similarly, in a study of undergraduates, Humber-Jarato found that religious commitment was weakly linked with identity achievement and moderately linked with identity for culture. This finding suggests that religious participation can either help or hinder the identity formation process. Desperation caused by religious groups that values the group and ends of the religion more than an individual life itself. So, without a form of religion that connects you with the experience of social group or other people, it's difficult to promote a self-concept that fully integrates morality and citizenship. Extremely speaking, the form of religion and spirituality puts the individual in a greater interest and promotes individual narcissism and less contribution to society.
Okay, so here she's talking about the potential pitfalls of religion and in terms of identity development. And so if there's an extreme approach to the practice of religion, either too much towards the self or too much towards the other, right? It can lead to sort of negative identity development, okay? And so we know about extremist religious groups that place too much emphasis on identity, right? On the desire to have a certain identity, religious sort of zealous identity, right? And then in actuality, they engage in sort of antisocial kinds of behaviors, right? But then there's also things like that affect identity, identity development are things like young people being there's too much forcing of young people to conform to certain community ideals or religious ideals, right? And then that sort of ends up backfiring. Okay, so there's when this balance is sort of lost and there's extremism on either side or either way, it can have a negative effect on a young person's individual identity development. All right, too much emphasis on the self or too much emphasis on others at the expense of the self, right? And that's what she's referring to here. Okay, so there should be healthy connection to other groups in society through the religious commitment. Okay. Next.
Okay. Um, Current research examines the relation between religion and identity using basic religious variables such as religious salience, religious attendance, religious activities, and beliefs. Integrating religious beliefs with one's personal ideology may be important in identity formation. In order to fully explore the role of religion in identity development, it is important to study the extent to which religious belief participates in personal ideology. Data from youth groups and other groups of different natures will help young people to digest a series of religious background beliefs, values, and moral concepts. Since the acquisition of identity requires exploration and commitment, attention should be paid to the extent to which young people explore different religious beliefs and the extent to which they internalize it as self-recognition. Empirical research on the social background of religion will require understanding the role of interpersonal relationships on adolescents' identities and exploring the impact of social experience gained through the religion. For example, how do traditional parents, leaders, or historical heroes have different effects on the formation of adolescents' identity, and how do the trust and frequency of social interaction regulate the impact of this relationship on the identity of young people? So the above is my part. Then we have the final summary part is returned to Michael.
Okay, so that section there is on, she's giving some ideas and directions for future research in relation to the study of religion, spirituality, and identity. Okay, so she gives some inputs there in terms of where the field needs to go in terms of studying this topic. Okay, so that's more for researchers' perspective, not so much for our concerns here in the class. Okay. All right, so next. Michael?
Next, please. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make a conclusion. Generally speaking, based on this article, to gain more comprehensive insight into the relationship between the religion and identity development, the role of spirituality must be considered. And it is also important to explore how aspects of ideology and social context and the spirituality interact. Existing theories and research indicate that ideology, interpersonal relationship, and spiritualities in religion may provide fertile ground for identity formation. So I think the religion may play a valuable role in society, providing youth with an environment of intergenerational support. And the faith communities such as and can serve as a spiritual anchor, as mentioned before, for the youth, providing them with a strong sense of uniqueness and personal worth, as well as the connecting them to something beyond themselves. A religion's context provides the anchor as an ideological, social, and spiritual community, and which serves to ground a young person through the sometimes turbulent water of the adolescence. And that's all. That's all
Okay.
about
All
the
right.
conclusion.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. So yeah, so that last one's very interesting because studies they've done comparing, like, for example, American adolescent populations to adolescents in more of traditional societies where I think religion plays a larger role, culture as well, but mostly religion, they found that there's a lot less what we would call storm and stress in those traditional societies where there is more traditional religious belief and practice, as opposed to American adolescents. And that's, I think, a lot of it has to do with this idea of the spiritual anchor, having that spiritual anchor to ground those young people that are growing up in these more traditional societies, right? So it's just important to understand how it plays out in different different contexts. So okay, so I think that's what's most important about this to remember is those three aspects, the three ways that religion and spirituality can contribute to youth identity development. Okay, so the ideological, the social, and the spiritual. All right, and then and so now what I would like to do is first, before we go on to our um, uh, exercise for tonight, are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions about what we've read, what we've discussed? There must be questions. No. Remember, okay, so remember, just a couple of reminders here. First thing is, when for the presenters, and I understand that there are some challenges with language, but for all the presenters, I would just recommend try not to read so much, especially reading directly from the article, okay? Because the assignment is really that we're all supposed to read the article, and then the presenters are supposed to sort of provide the gist, the synthesis, the synopsis of the article, all right, for discussion. Okay, so try not to read verbatim so much from the article when you do your presentation. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is that remember, for this class, each of these articles are basically your class notes. Yeah, so because I don't give slides. And so it's really important that we, again, whenever possible, please try to read before the class, come to class having read it, and then having at least tried to digest it before, so that you can make sense of it, because these are your class notes, all right? And so, of course, later for the final exam and stuff, you'll have to refer to them. And so I also would hope that people are taking notes during the presentation. Okay, so just a couple reminders about that. Okay, any questions at all? Anything? No? Okay, so this is what I want to do now, if there's no questions. So based on the content of the article tonight, I want us each to think up, I want you to think of an example, a real life example, either from your own religion or from some other religion, okay, religious tradition, or maybe it's a spiritual tradition, maybe not necessarily an organized religion, okay, of any of these three elements of an example of any of these three elements related to youth identity development, okay? So it should be a real life example, okay? And then I want you to try and link that, explain how that relates to, or how that can contribute to youth identity development, okay? Their identity development. So try and think up of a real life example, and then try to explain how that example relates to identity development. Now, usually I ask you to write these down on Padlet, but tonight I'm gonna call on you, some of you at least, and I'm gonna ask you to present your answer verbally. Okay, so you can go ahead and think up of an example, maybe try to connect it to something in the article. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And then in a few minutes, I'm gonna ask for volunteers, or I'm just gonna call on people. I know everyone hates that, but sometimes you have to do it. Okay, and we're gonna share our answers live and in person, okay, rather than write them down. So go ahead and take a few minutes and do that. And it's okay, you may have to go back through the article and try and make the connection with your example. That's fine. Take a few minutes to do that, no problem. Okay, who needs more time? Guys need more time? That's fine. If you need more time, no problem. I'll give you a few more minutes, okay?